ball rolling. I'm going to let everyone in. Oh, we have Representative Good. Steve's on. Okay. All right, it is 6 o'clock and we're going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully our panelists will be here by the time we're done with the early part of the agenda. Good evening. We're going to start with the welcome. Valerie is doing the welcome. Valerie, would you welcome our guest, please?
Oh, certainly, Charlie. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Valerie Green, and first of all, hello, and thank you all for attending our continuing conversation with the community. We'd like to extend a welcome on behalf of DeKalb Citizens United, and it brings me great pleasure to be able to sit down as a community member and to talk about the issues that continue to go on in our community. But not only to just talk about them, but to come up with solutions to these problems as a whole. I hope that you guys came with an open mind and came with the same intentions to keep fighting to make DeKalb County better for all of us. And again, welcome.
Thank you
Charlie?
so, thank you so much for that. But we're going into the housekeeping portion of the meeting this evening.
Yep, sorry, hold on.
Okay, that's
Okay.
okay. That's the agenda. There we go. Okay, so as usual, I am Charlie Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Just a few things we'd like to remind our guests of so that we can take advantage of the time that we have. We've got an hour and a half and we want to use it as expeditiously or as we can. All attendants will be muted until time for the Q&A. The participants will be able to ask questions at the end of each presentation. Participants will be able to ask 2 questions. You can click the raise hand button and the host will unmute you. And to lower your hand, you'll follow the same process. Now, the raise your hand button should be at the bottom of your screen. If you're familiar with Zoom, it should be in the participant area, but it should be on the bottom of your screen. Mine is under more, so look for it there. And also, each participant will, oh, if you should, and the other thing, participants will be able to ask the 2 questions. You can raise your hand, or if you like to, you can send a question directly to Terry Nobley. And she'll be monitoring the chat line. She'll pull your questions from that, and then she'll proceed to ask them at the appropriate time. Again, each participant is limited to 2 questions each, and if we have more time at the end, we'll allow you to ask additional questions. Panelists will be given a 10-minute warning. It will be my little yellow book, oh, little yellow. They'll see yellow at within 10 minutes of their time expiring. And we ask everyone to be respectful of our panelists and one another by using kind and appropriate language. Thank you so much for being with us today.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Charlie. So now I'd like to introduce the core members for DCU, or for DeKalb Citizens United. Starting with myself, my name is Valerie Green, and I've been a long time resident for DeKalb County. I raised my family here, used the school systems, and I own my home here. And it's always been a really, really great place for me to live. I've always enjoyed being a part of community activism to keep the county, to maintain the values that I've come to appreciate in living here. And then I'd like to also reintroduce you to Miss Charlie Wilson. And Charles has
Hi.
been has been a DeKalb County member for greater than 20 years. And she's a very spirited and determined person, and a great mentor for community engagement, and just a great inspiration to me. And in fact, that was one of the reasons I was drawn to the organization, to kind of help and to go further. Christopher Goose is also a core member of ours, and he is unavailable at the moment. And he's been in DeKalb County for over 20 years as well. Chris is an author, and he really, really loves being engaged with the community and join the organization to continue to do so. In fact, he's lived here all of his life, is what he shared with me. The next person that I'd like to introduce that is a part of our core group is Terry Ngobli. And I know that Terry was having a little technical difficulty, but Terry shared with me that she's lived in DeKalb County for over 3 decades. And she raised her family here, and even her children now reside as members of the DeKalb County community, which further bolsters DeKalb being a great community to live in. Sierra Fields is also a member, with a core member of our DeKalb Citizens United. And Sierra has lived in the county for over 10 years. She is raising her family here, and her children are members of the elementary school system as well as the high school system. And Sierra is very engaged in the educational and faith communities of DeKalb County, as well as a realtor. So she's a great person to know and a great resource in terms of being a core member of our organization. Miss Annie Turman, who also has been a lifelong DeKalb County resident, has been with us for quite some time. And certainly last but not least is our very own Dawn Foster.
Hey.
Hey, Dawn. Hey, Dawn. Dawn has been a 24-year resident and a very active citizen in DeKalb County. She loves to travel and spend time with her family, and her professional skills certainly are a great asset to us in that her professional accolades speak to being an operations analyst in the technology industry. And we really lean heavily on Dawn for helping us to get the word out, especially with the COVID situation going on. All of our meetings have converted to being remote. So we have a really strong team. Both personal and professional experiences really help us to do the work that we are all dedicated to do. And we're looking forward to finding more team members. So that's all of the core members. I'd like to introduce our panelists. Would you like me to proceed with those now, Charlie?
Let's wait a few minutes and come back, because
Okay.
so far they haven't piped in yet. I was just checking messages to make sure that I had not missed anything.
Yeah, well, she could do me as a panelist. I know the police will be on by 6:20.
Okay, so
Okay. Okay. And Dawn is going to be our panelist that will be providing us with a zoning process overview, along with some questions and answers regarding that. I'm looking forward to that.
All righty.
Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
thank you, Valerie.
All right, let's
sure.
rock and roll. So I decided, Dawn Foster, to try to put together a zoning process overview. I'm not a reader of slides, so I will briefly go through the presentation, which I pulled all this information from the DeKalb website, and a copy of the preso will be available if anyone wants one, but they would have to request it and via the 4DCU email address, and we would share it that way and also on our Facebook page. So let's get started. All right, everybody can see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We see
Right.
it.
So, a lot of us are next door. We see a lot of common threads, common complaints, and I just grabbed a few screenshots. And this made me want to do the zoning presentation, because a lot of us don't understand, what it takes for us to get involved with our board of commissioners or the planning department to find out what they plan on developing in our community. So these are some of the complaints. And you see the first two. I'm going to read the last one. Our elected officials can push back, say no without big brother or big sister watching. I should not have to work, take care of my property, my neighbors, my schools, my children, and attend every meeting just so junk is not put in my neighborhood by individuals who say they would look out for the community at large. And what I can say about that right there, it takes all of us. Yeah, we have these elected officials, but we have to do our part too. So I'm going to walk through the steps it takes for these entities to be built into our neighborhoods. The DeKalb County zoning process overview. So the first step, as we all know, say, Char wants to open up a business on Wesley Chapel. and she has to meet with the developers and the planning staff with DeKalb County. And she has to also announce a pre-submittal community meeting. And I think this is where a lot of it kind of falls through the cracks, because it is up to the applicant that wants to open up this business to notify the neighbors. And they only have to go within a half of a mile. And they only have to put a notice on the site where they want to build, the business. I also found out that even though they're supposed to advertise they can't advertise the pre-submittal community meeting that's coming up in the neighborhood in AJC and in the Champion, but it's not mandatory. And DeKalb County, I did ask them, I said, can you all have a calendar of the pre-submittal community meetings just like you do for the planning commission or the community council, et cetera? And I was told no, because that is not something that is facilitated through their office. So that is the first step, is the pre-submittal community meeting. And this is where a lot of us miss the signs, or we just don't know, and all of a sudden something is popping up in the neighborhood. So that's step one, pre-submittal community meetings. This is the big red flag. Second, and all this happens within the 4 to 6 week time. The second step, so have your pre-submittal meeting, community goes in, gives their their advice or their feedback. The next step is going to the community council meeting, and each district has their own community council, which consists of, I guess, various citizens. And all they do is they listen, you get the public input, and they make recommendations based on what we said. Now, we can all go into a community council meeting and reject, whatever it is being recommended, but the community council can, approve it. So they make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, okay? And once again, they have to post on the property the next meeting. So you have pre-submittal, community council meeting, and then next you have the planning commission, step 3. So now the planning commission has the recommendations from the pre-submittal community meetings, or the feedback from that. They had the recommendations from the community council, and now they have to look at everything and make their recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. So this is the third step, pre-submittal, community council, and then the planning commission meeting. Fourth step is last, well, not really the last, but Board of Commissioners. This is the Board of Commissioners. This is where things get the final vote. So all this feedback from those first 3 steps make it to the Board of Commissioners, and they listen to the public input, et cetera, the recommendations from the community council and the planning commission, and they make a final vote on this property or this business, okay? And this is where we really need to go to the meetings. This is where we're failing, and this stuff happens on a monthly basis. They have a calendar on their site, and it provides the meetings for the community council, the planning commission, and the Board of Commissioners. And like I said, I'm gonna keep going back to step 1. That's where the process is broken. And last but least, which I really don't have a lot of experience with that, but sometimes they have what they call an appeals process. So sometimes you may have a developer that wants to rezone a property, but they want to do something a little different with it. And that's when it has to go in front of the, what they call the Zoning Board of Appeals. And whatever decision they make is legally binding and enforceable for the life of the zoning. So you got to be real careful with that, because once you set a precedence and you allow a variance for zoning, it can continue thereafter into the future with different requests for zoning. And you heard me mention or highlight recommendation. Like I said, the community council, planning commission, they give recommendations to the Board of Commissioners, who make a final decision. If appealed, they make the final decision. So that is the process. And because, I highlighted this in red because there have been times when we may, or some of us have been to a community council meeting, and the community council, we don't want this business, and the community council votes or recommends a denial, and then the community thinks they won. No, they're just making a recommendation, guys. Board of Commissioners, once again, makes the final recommendation. And like I said, regardless of the voting result, whether it was a deferral or denial, it still has to go through these steps. And I'm not going to read this, but this is the voting process.
Join the meeting.
Can you hear me? What was that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is the voting process. So through all those steps of those different entities, community council, planning commission, board of commissioners, these are the different types of votes they take. So you may hear, oh, we're going to do a 2-week deferral or a full cycle deferral. This is basically the definition page. So whoever wants to copy this prezo, you're welcome to read it. And the voting results. You know, you've been there, and so, you know, this is just an example of a voting result. So the numbers in order, you see 5, 3, 1. That means who's in favor, opposed, and abstained, just so you have a general understanding of how the voting happens. And I'll provide a link where you can find the voting results from previous board meetings. So there's a link to the meeting minutes. And next, so this is an example. I pulled this from the September 20th rezone agenda. And this is an example of a case that is going forward to the Board of Commissioners. And it was originally, it was a deferred case. And this happens to be in Commission District number 4, Super District 6. So when I go and I look at the agenda, my focus usually is District 5, Super District 7. So it tells you what district and super district these items are in. And if you look at this example right here, they want to build 448 multifamily units, and this is at these addresses on Memorial Drive. Okay, I haven't been down Memorial Drive to look in a while. I don't know what it looks like, but it was originally zoned for office, and now they want to rezone it for high density residential to build 448 homes. And I look back at the community council recommendations. They approved it, so that was their recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And also I went further back, step 2, to the Planning Commission, and the application moved forward with no recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for whatever reason. So those are the steps. So this is just an example. When you look at the agendas, you know, look at your district information, see what's coming in your area, spread the word, and take it from there. And I found out something new today when I was communicating with the Planning and Sustainability Department to find out, do they have a pre-submittal calendar similar to the other groups? And I was told no, but I was informed about this neighborhood registry. Never heard of it. The purpose is, has the states to get residents more involved in decisions affecting their neighborhood. This is a link to the form you fill out, and you can receive notices of developments within their specified boundaries. Never knew they had this registry. Never knew that. So will be shared after the call. So that does exist. And these are various links to the resources where I pulled some of my information. The zoning process is where I pulled most of my information for the pre-zone. This is a link to the public hearing agendas. Check them monthly. This right here is the calendar, the rezone calendar for 2020. And this one calendar will provide you with the upcoming Community Council, Planning Commission, and Board of Commissioner meetings, all on one calendar. And if you don't know who your commissioner is and what district you reside in, this link will take you there. You enter your address and it will tell you who your commissioner and your district number is. That's all I have. So we can open up if anybody has any questions. But, you know, one thing I want to say is we just got to, you know, share the information. If someone goes to the agenda and they see, you know, something that needs to be shared with others in the community, share it. But this is where we're falling through the cracks, where we all complain, well, I didn't know that was coming. Well, how come no one told us? You know, we have to do our part too. I'm done. Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Don. Great job. Great job. Thank you so much. I do have an interest. I'm curious. I did not know about the neighborhood registry either the first time I've heard that. So thank you so much for providing that link, because I will definitely register for it.
Yeah.
Couple of things I wanted to kind of run back over. Remember, there were several steps involving the zoning process. It's not just that we've got commissioners and we've got the CEO that's in office that we elected and they can do as we want them to do. There is a process, and it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 step process if I counted correctly. And it starts first of all with the pre-submittal to request to either rezone it or build whatever you want to build or open up. Then you have the council meeting community council meeting. And I just want to say the community council meeting is a very important meeting because most times if you go to the community council meeting, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to defer it if the community comes out, or they're going to deny and let it go through. Now, the final vote also before the Board of Commissioners, because sometimes they will push it through, the community council meeting will push it through. But if you go to the Board of Commissioners meeting, that is where you really need to get everybody in your community, the community 3 neighborhoods over from you, to join together and pack that room so that your voice not only will be heard, but you've got a great chance of it not being approved. We had an issue here, and what we did was we decided that we would get a speaker. We selected one person to speak for us because if everybody's trying to speak, it's going to eat up a lot of time. But we had one person to speak for us, and we gave them all of our concerns. And once we were done, we won what we went there to win. So it's important for people to pass out. Thank you again, Don, for doing that. We really appreciate that. Let's see, I think we've got Major Kendrick on. Did you
Jordan,
see him?
Medlin, and Banks.
Okay, Major Banks. So we do have him on. We've got, and let me just acknowledge while I'm here, Representative Viola Davis. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Representative Davis. We appreciate that. Okay, so do we want to go on with Major Banks?
Yeah, is the chief on?
No, she's not on yet.
Okay,
No.
You want to have Valerie do the intros for the major.
Okay, Valerie, would you go ahead and read the intro for Major Banks, please?
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. We'd like to bring to our meeting Major Ken Banks, and currently Major Banks is serving as the commander of the South Precinct with 28 years of service. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Major Banks.
Let's introduce all the majors.
Okay, go ahead and introduce all of them, Valerie.
Sure. Then we also will be joined by Major Danny Jordan, who's also a commander of the East Precinct with 22 years of service, and Major Craig Medlin, who's the commander of the Tucker Precinct with 26 years of service. So thank you for joining us.
And since we're doing the intros, let's go ahead and introduce, well, Valerie, you want to wait until Chief Ramos come on and introduce her?
Yes, sure.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Major Banks.
Hi.
Hi, good. You unmuted yourself. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. I think everybody was waiting on you and Chief Ramos to speak. They didn't have any questions, so we're going to let you go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. Well, Chief Ramos, she's going to be running late. She's actually in another meeting. And as soon as she's available, she will come in and join this meeting. So again, I'm Major Ken Banks. I'm the South Precinct Commander. I've been the commander now for, I believe, 3 weeks, if I'm right, Major Jordan. He and I, we exchanged precincts, so to speak. He's now the East Precinct Commander. So just still here, fresh and learning things about South Precinct, but even in that, I'm still not new to policing. So we're still dealing with particular issues and then making sure that we're still being driven by the community-oriented policing philosophy, which we believe is actually helping us in a lot of ways, and not just police, but the community as well, where we are partnering with one another to address any issues and concerns that are in our community. So I was given some questions and some areas of concern, and being that I'm still new and fresh to South, Major Jordan and I, we decided that we would speak to what we're more knowledgeable of in our former precincts. So areas of concern that I was given was in particular Reed Ann Road and South Harrison Road, I believe, and that is an area that really borders both East and Tucker Precinct, and quite Major Medlin will speak a little bit to those areas as well. But I just know we had our we had a last meeting, I believe it was in March of this year, if I'm correct. Ms. Foster, if I'm correct about that. So I just looked at some, oh, Chief is on. Let me stop. There's Chief.
I'm so sorry. I just got off another Zoom call with the commissioner and another group of citizens, so I apologize.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chief. We know you're very busy and we appreciate you taking the time out to spend a few minutes with us this evening.
Of
Valerie, if you go ahead, do we want to proceed with Chief Ramos in case she gets called out again? Don? I'm sorry, Chief.
No, and I'm okay. We don't have to rush. I'm all yours now.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Major Banks, was there anything else that you wanted to say before we move forward?
Well, I'll yield to the Chief, and then I can go back to the things that I was going to be discussing.
Okay. So Valerie, would you go ahead, please, and introduce Chief Ramos for us, please?
Sure. Thank you and welcome, Chief. Chief Myrta Ramos is the DeKalb County Police Chief, and she brings to DeKalb 23 years of police service with the Miami-Dade Police Department before coming to DeKalb County. And we welcome you, Chief. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Chief Ramos, it's all yours now.
You're going to talk about some community policing?
Okay, yeah, because I didn't know the topic. So community policing.
Bang.
So that's actually something that's always at the forefront for me. And then just recently, we've had the opportunity to actually try to implement some initiatives as it relates to community policing. So even though we are shortly staffed, a little bit less than what we would like, we're utilizing some of our personnel, whether they're on duty or off duty, to actually take time away from their busy call-to-call responsibilities to just go into the community, whether it's an apartment complex, whether it's a business, whether it's a shopping center, and just talk to people. We want to be able to interact with people in an informal setting where they don't have to rush because there's another call waiting for them to go. So this has allowed them to have a little bit more patience, a little bit of more understanding, and a little bit more of let's get to know each other so that you know the officers that are working your area. That way, if you have a problem in your area, you know who you can call. Maybe they're busy tomorrow doing their regular day-to-day work, but that doesn't mean they can't swing around and say, hey, what about that problem you had last week? Did you take care of it? Did someone come by? What we want to do is try to personalize service, which we know is difficult with the busy cost for service. So they say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but we're trying to give some attention to those people that don't necessarily have any issues, but that want to learn about the officers in their community. So this is our third week trying it. So far, the feedback has been well, and we're hoping to be able to create a unit that's permanently assigned rather than just 1 day a week in each precinct, for them to do it 4 days a week, 5 days a week. So that way you really can get to know the people in your area.
Okay.
So, Chief Ramos, thank you for that information. I think that's very interesting and something that we've heard talked about several times in various conversations on Nextdoor. I think it's a great idea for officers to enter into the community to try and meet with the residents as well as the business owners. And if I understood you correct right now, currently it's only 1 day a week that
It's
this is
1 day a
taking
week.
place. 1 day a week.
Per
Okay.
precinct, because it's hard to take them away from their day-to-day responsibilities.
Mhm.
So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, on this day, we're gonna pick people, some are on duty, some are off duty to focus. We're trying to see if we can grow it to 2 days a week and then eventually find a way, as some of the recruits come out of the academy, to do a permanent unit. It may not be a large unit, but it'll be a contingency of at least 4 officers and a sergeant that will just be doing that all day, every day.
Oh, cool. That sounds interesting.
That is the goal.
That is very good, interesting. So with this event taking place or is currently being implemented, how are you guys selecting the areas that they would go into, or is it up to the individual precincts?
We are actually allowing the precinct commanders to allow the person coordinating the initiative to select where they feel the officer should go. Nobody knows the precinct the way the precinct commanders know. They know the complaints they're receiving, they know where the crime is happening. So they should direct these efforts to people that require just a little additional attention, but in a positive way.
Okay, okay. Now you mentioned something that my ear kind of itched. It says speaking things that to itching ears, and my ears started itching when you mentioned that word recruit. Or do we have some new recruits in training right now?
We sure do. We have about 15 in one class, and then the second one, I believe, and the number is approximate, is in the high 20s. I think we may have reached even 30.
Cool.
So one class is coming out in October, and the next class is coming out, I believe, December or January. I've just
Great.
started, I was just given the training academy, so I'm just catching up on what we have going on down there. Prior to this week, I wasn't responsible for them, but now that I am, so I'm really diving deep and figuring out what we got there and how we can improve that.
Great, fantastic. That is good news. That's good news. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? I don't want to hog all the time. Now's the time to get them out.
Well, Charles, let's hear from the majors. It'd be
Okay.
great to hear from the majors, especially with, we have the new change, the switch up between the East and the South precinct. And then let's open it up to Q&A with the participants.
Okay. Okay.
So
Go ahead. Which major you?
I'm on mute. Major Banks.
Okay, so I'll just continue where I left off. And I was speaking more so to the area of Redan and South Harrison. And I believe I was last saying that was an area that we talked about, I believe, in our last meeting around in March of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And just to pull some statistical data, just some numbers looking at the area, I did see that we had about 13 entering autos in that area. And we look at entering autos, a lot of times it deals with educating the public, as well as our deterring the criminals in the area. But we do our part with that, and we then meet and try to get the information out to the communities of the importance of not letting items remain in your vehicle, especially visible. Those items that are valuable, such as your laptops, your iPhones, or different types of cell phones, and definitely don't leave any firearms inside your vehicle. We also have taken another step in saying don't leave chargers visible in your vehicles. What that alerts the criminal is that if there's a charger, then there's a likelihood that there may be a laptop or some type of tablet or computer there or a phone. So it's just best to have all those things safely stored away. And firearms shouldn't be left in your vehicle anyway. If you're at home, they should be in your home with you, and there are measures that you can take to safely secure those firearms inside your home if that's a concern. Many who have small children are concerned with their children, or even older teenagers getting their hands on those weapons. So we would ask that you continue to try to push that message out in your community meetings that you're having, the importance of not leaving items inside of your vehicle. We also look at, we had in that area, and what I did, I used the Kroger as the focal point, and I went a quarter mile from there, that Kroger that rests at South Harrison and Redan Road. And in that area, there were 5 commercial burglaries. So those are some of the businesses that may have been around there, to include also storage facilities as well. So we have our detectives, they are working to solve those cases and using the available technology at those particular businesses, such as cameras and so forth. And then also we look at some of the qualitative information that we can get from maybe some of the store employees who could say, I saw this particular person casing the area who was, and we get a good description from there. So we try to develop those leads so we can close those cases. And we also looked and we saw that we had in that particular area 10 drug offenses. Now, when we capture those drug offenses, they're also linked to arrests. So when we're making reports We do have arrests attached to them, which is a good thing. That tells you that we have our officers in the area. And in particular, I can speak to those two gas stations there, the BP and the Chevron, where both East Precinct and Tucker have been working aggressively, and also speaking with the management owners of those particular establishments, and they are well aware of our presence there, and have agreed also to report those incidences by calling the police to it. So we in the past have been very successful in that, and we continue to engage the owners of those establishments and other businesses that surround, because we do know there are other businesses such as the Zaxby's, who we have different events there. We were holding our coffee with a cop and so forth. We were doing those areas, and actually we did a business walk just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, where I and some of the staff with East Precinct, we actually walked that plaza and we talked to every business owner or manager in there, and we had some really good discussions with them. So we will continue to move in that direction. I know that we're not able to meet like we used to, but we are using Zoom as we're doing now to still push the message out, and then also out of other social media platforms such as Nextdoor and Facebook. So we're working to continue to reduce crime in those areas. We were also looking at the list, and there were some other areas. Still speaking to East Precinct, we had Hidden Hills, and we know Hidden Hills is a very, very large community, if not one of the largest in not just East, but in DeKalb County, I would venture to say, since it is broken out into several subdivisions. So to speak on that, we would really ask if we could kind of narrow it down a little bit to a particular area. So those that may reside in that area, we always ask that you just remain in contact with your precinct, the commander, and then we have public education specialists, and then just officers that are in the area. I know there are some officers that actually reside in Hidden Hills who have a vested interest in what goes on over there. But if ever you see that there's a issue and you want to work collaboratively with the police department, please give us a call, and definitely we will partner with you in addressing those issues and concerns there. Other areas I was looking at, got Harrison and Covington, and that kind of goes over again in the East and Tucker, and I don't want to take up all the time, and I don't want to take Major Metlin's voice from him and Major Jordan, so I'll yield to two of them to kind of cover the other areas.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
I'm sorry to just jump right in, but I do have a quick question. You were talking about the business walk within the plaza, and you and a couple of the other officers walked that plaza. Were you speaking of the Kroger Plaza?
No, I'm actually speaking, well, we did walk that plaza, Kroger Plaza, and we walked the plaza where the Zaxby's is. So that, they're kind of across the street from one another, but that was some of the dividing line. So Major Metlin and I at the time, we partnered on the same day that evening around the same time. We actually went, we were over there 2 times in the same day, just different times, early in the day, and then we went back a little later in the night after another meeting. But we both hit the that's the dividing line for East and Tucker precinct.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go next. As Major Banks said, he was previously over here, East Precinct, and I was at South. So I think it was a great idea. Like he said, that I'll cover some of the South area that you wanted to speak about. The main area was South Precinct that we were given was Wesley Chapel Road. I'll start with saying while I was the precinct commander at South, one of the things we identified is what's going on Wesley Chapel Road. Everybody talks about Wesley Chapel, but we wanted to find out what can we do to change some of the crime in Wesley Chapel Road. So probably everyone on here is familiar with the Shell gas station at Wesley Chapel and I-20. We've had problems with that over the years. So we looked at that as almost like the epicenter of what was going on over there, because either people are hanging out at that Shell gas station, they live in it, that's an apartment complex that's right behind it, a very huge complex behind it, that we have some issues on that drive some of the crime up in Wesley Chapel. And then of course, you know, just the street itself is with the sidewalks and everything, it makes it a pretty easy area for pedestrians. So what we did was initially, we actually thought, like most officers, we were thinking, okay, why are we having so many issues at the Shell? Maybe the ownership is involved in this because they have to see us up there all the time. So we took a different approach and actually went and sat down with the owners. And I can tell you to my astonishment, they were actually being victims themselves. They had males coming inside the store who would basically threaten them and basically, you know, force them to just set up shop inside of the store and have the customers, as well as selling narcotics or whatever the deal may have been. So we took a very good approach with the NET team and just started going up there and said we was just gonna focus on that one particular area, and it really drove down a lot of crime by staying in that area. Oftentimes you'll see police departments will start something, an area, and then we'll kind of go away from it as the crime goes down. But we kind of kept a good footprint in that area just because we knew the majority of crime was coming from that particular area where people just wanted to hang out. So we saw some great results up there. Chief Ramos talked earlier about the initiative of community-oriented police. The enforcement component of what we're doing is great, but I think what she's also doing is an excellent component, excellent backup to it, and it helps us out tremendously when these officers that she's speaking about can actually go out there and actually have some dialogue with the community. And we know we get that dialogue, we can start getting some true solutions. So not to rehash what Major Banks talked about, but we did some things along Wesley Chapel. Before COVID, we were having community roll calls. And that's just a thing where we actually asked the officers to come out of the walls of the precinct and get out into the community and have a roll call out within the community itself. That was very successful. We did that at Kroger on Wesley Chapel. We also did it at the library on Wesley Chapel. And the follow-up where he talked about the Coffee with a Cop, we did that on. We picked these very strategic places that we wanted to have a presence and visibility in the area, but also have the community come out and work with us, because I think we can all do it together instead of just the police taking on the entire burden. We saw some great results with the community coming out saying, hey, we want to engage in this, we want to partner with you. And that's the essence of all this, is just partnering with each other to find out what exactly we can do to solve the crime in DeKalb County. So I won't rehash all of it, but I will talk about the crime that we saw over the last 6 months. We pulled the stats. We did have 3 homicides in the Wesley Chapel area. And like I said, a lot of this is coming from, we definitely identified, we have some hotels on Wesley Chapel, some extended stays, along with a large apartment complex. But I will say the good thing about the murders, I don't have the stats right in front of me. Someone from Major Felony, a homicide can tell us this, but anyone in the majors and the chief can attest to this. Our homicide unit does a great job with solving crimes. So they have a very high clearance rate. The good thing I would tell the community is we don't have the murders that we have in there. They're not just random murders where someone's just coming up and shooting someone. It's normally someone engaged in something where these two people know each other, they have a dispute, and they decide to solve it with a handgun. So we did have 3 murders in the area. The buildings, thefts from buildings, we had 1. And the thefts from the vehicle was surprisingly low over the 6 months. We had 6 entering autos, which is extremely low. Because these days, they changed the trend of how they actually break in vehicles. Like Major Banks says, sometimes they'll look into vehicles, but all too often, they'll just go smash 15 or 20 windows and just see whatever they can grab. So having 6 is a great improvement. It actually shows me that we get some visibility in that particular area. And fraud 1. And I'm trying to look at motor vehicle thefts we had 9. That's probably another one that we had a high number in. But those motor vehicle thefts, we talk about those at all Zoom meetings, all community meetings. Lock your car, take your keys with you. Don't leave the cars running. Especially this time of year, you'll start to hear us ramp it up even more because the colder it gets, the more people want to leave the vehicles running. And it's just a crime of opportunity for someone just to jump in the vehicle and drive off. And like Major Banks said, the drug violations, we have 11, but I can tell you those 11 were more than likely drug arrests where we actually made the arrest and then we actually write a report on it. So that's why it's showing up as a drug violation. I don't have a lot to go into as well. My main focus was Wesley Chapel. I can tell you that we'll continue to do it along with the net teams and the COP units. And we're just going to focus primarily in that Wesley Chapel and I-20 area. That's where we see the majority of our issues at. And I can say over the past 6 months, the officers did a very good job in that area. So I'm very pleased to see some of those numbers up. Of course, we would like to have 0 murders, but you know, sometimes that's just something where 2 people engage in something and we may not just be able to just do something about that, but we are doing a great job with at least solving the murders, the homicides. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me. And like I said, I'm now over here at East Precinct, so I'll be learning this and I'll be able to report from that very shortly.
If you guys would like, I can give you an update on the homicides. Our numbers currently are a lot better than they were last year. Last year at this time, we had 88 homicides. This year, we've had 73. So it's a 17% reduction. And as Major Jordan said, a lot of our homicides, even though one life is too many, but sometimes we're just frustrated at the fact that we can't do much about it. A lot of it is domestics, subjects, acquaintances fighting over drugs, money. It's hard to kind of stop a homicide when the person who's committing it didn't even know they were about to shoot someone. So difficult, but we're managing and we're doing a lot better than last year, and we hope to continue to address it however we can.
Okay, Major Medlin, unmute yourself. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Still can't hear. Can y'all hear him? I can't hear him.
No.
Not yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm learning. All right, let me go back a minute plug here. Last week we had a lot of storms going through the county. We had to deal with trees down. If you hadn't already, please log in with Code Red. You go to the county website, look up Code Red. It's a quick plug-in. It's an opt-in system. So if you don't opt in, you won't get the calls to warn you of oncoming storms. I'll stop with that. You can pick what you want to be alerted for, tornadoes, flooding, whatever else. It's really easy. But going into our crimes, as you said, we're down in the county 23% crimes against persons, and we're down property crimes 12%. It's really good. A lot of the areas that me and Major Banks share, he's already gave you some stats on. The biggest problem we've seen has been thefts, and that's internet autos, that type of thing, where people are seeing a quick, easy, get something out of your car. With COVID, we've had a lot of kids out. We've made a lot of arrests, but we're still seeing a lot of thefts in some areas. One of the biggest areas we've had to deal with in Tucker that borders with East is going to be the Old Boston Market there at Harrison, South Harrison, Redan Road, and that Chevron. If you've noticed, the Old Boston Market's been cleaned up quite a bit. There was graffiti. There was cars out there. We worked with the residents. We got that cleaned up. The Chevron owner was the one that was kind of managing that spot, and it lets the people work out of the back of it, and they shouldn't have been there. So they're now gone. We've heard that now the Boston Market has resold, and new ownership is coming in there. We hope that gets cleaned up fairly quickly. The Chevron itself, we've had a lot of problems with people selling drugs out there. We had an operation just the other day. They made 2 or 3 arrests, so we're keeping active on that. That's one of the areas we're really watching, that whole corner. When it comes to what was the other one? The Kroger is on East, but the Ingles is on us. Rock Ridge Road, there at North Harrison. We've had a lot of complaints of solicitors, people out there soliciting in roadway. We've cleared them out. We have one today, just a gentleman trying to go out there and get money. We approach them, we talk to them, we warn them. If they come back, we end up citing them, and then we go from there. But we've been able to clear the roads here in Tucker quite a bit. We haven't had that much problem with people selling water, nor with the solicitors in the roadway. So we're really working hard on that. The other issues, we've had a few burglaries. I'm showing 3 in the last 60 days in the areas that border. So no, they're kind of spread out, so there's not just one group I could blame it on. So we have had over 148 traffic stops in that area in the last 60 days, just in Redan and South Harrison. So the officers were there. They're out there patrolling, doing their part. And the residents are being really good about calling us, telling us what they're seeing. And one of the things they're seeing is the street racers. You'll see a lot of complaints about street racers now on the weekends. As a county, we've really got aggressive with that. We went after a lot. We've made some good arrests. And every weekend, we're keeping up with them. We're trying to find out where they are. They don't just stay at one spot. They jump around. So you can imagine 200 people or 100 people coming up here to race cars, and we're trying to follow where they're going. They talk to each other, and they move around. So we're doing some good jobs of breaking that up, and here lately we've been real successful with that. So that's all I have from Tucker Precinct, unless you have any questions.
Unmute yourself, Don.
Guess we go to open it up for Q&A. Just want to remind the attendees, if you want to ask a question, to hit the raise hand button, and we will unmute you. And you have a limit of 2 questions each, or you can send your questions directly to Terry via the chat feature. So let's go, y'all. Got lots of questions. I see my next door neighbor. Anybody raising their hand?
Nope.
Okay, Terry, you have any questions in chat? Where's Terry at? Oh, crap. Well, I'll start off. I have some questions.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I viewed the June 22nd, the first virtual community Q&A. This question is for Chief Ramos. And I know you stated you were working on forming an advisory committee to meet with you quarterly. And I know things kind of slowed down because of COVID. Is that still in the works? Is that moving along, or how's that going? Oh, unmute yourself. Char, just unmute everybody.
So it's COVID did kind of get in the way of that, but I do meet with, I have about 6 citizens that I meet with about once a month. So it's not a formalized committee per se, but it's people who've been engaged in their community, that have organizations that play a role in our communities, that bring their concerns to me. I address them. I tell them what we're doing. They take that information back to their organizations. So, I have about, like I said, 6. I have one from CID Tucker, from the CID from Tucker area. I have Jerry from DeLeo. I have Teresa Hardy from the NAACP. I have Larry Rucker, who's just a citizen, also from, I believe, the Tucker area. So just a different mix and match of people that generally, like I said, have been people that have been very involved in the community, and they have an audience with me once a month. So we meet with them, and it's just me, actually, not we. So I want them to have a personal one-on-one conversation with me, and we just discuss whatever's going on in the department and in the community. So it kind of works both ways. It gives me an in to what's happening out there, and then I let them in into what's happening with us. And so we share information, and then we take it back to our people.
Oh, okay. So I hear a lot of Tucker citizens. So I'm over here.
I think it was just the Tucker. No, actually one doesn't even live there, but he has a big organization. Do you know who that is, Craig? It's Wayne from the CID from Tucker.
Wayne?
Yeah.
I don't know the first name. If you had his last name, I might be able to tell you.
I could probably find it, but
and a couple others.
Okay, well, yeah, so I do have one from Tucker, South Precinct. I have one, I think, from every corner of the department. And then, like I said, Teresa Hardy, she's just from all over. So realistically, just people that ended up falling into it, that, like I said, have concerns from their communities and bring them to me so that I can address them. And or sometimes they just have questions. Well, how does this work? What are your plans for this? And I'm really big on transparency. That's why we have the virtual town halls. I don't know if you guys missed the one we just had last Sunday. It's actually on our Facebook page, where we just introduced the officers and kind of gave you a peek behind the badge as to what drives us. In January, early January, we'll be doing the good, the bad, and the ugly, where we were going to put all our business out there. So we're going to tell you about the good things that we've done. We're going to tell you about the challenges we've had, and we're going to tell you how we're going to move forward in 2021. So the one
Okay.
thing you can count on is we just going to put it all out there because we are your police department. And I don't say that to say it, is we are here to serve you. And so if you want to know something, we should tell you. And if we do something wrong, then we'll admit it. And if we need to correct something, then we will. Nobody's saying we're perfect. But what I am saying, we're working towards fixing what we know is wrong. And if something is brought to our attention, either I can defend it or I can tell you you're absolutely right. And this is what we're doing about it.
Okay. There's one more question. If someone wanted to become part of the informal citizens advisory, say me, maybe, how would I go about doing that? Just reach out to you, and because I would like to be a part of those, I guess, the informal meetings you have with the other citizens or anyone else.
You know, I'm not exactly sure that I'm opening it up like that. I think these people were selected because they were so highly involved. So I don't know. But you can email me. I'll give you my email.
Okay.
And we
I guess
can talk
I
about your interest.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say no.
Yeah.
But if I just bring everybody in, then we're just gonna have a community meeting. So it's a little different on my goal of what I'm trying to achieve. But I will always meet with the community, always meet with the citizens. I'm just trying to formulate something. I guess those people that sit on the committee are I guess my voice piece, in the sense of they have that audience that they can bring a whole bunch of people's concerns to me with just me meeting with one person, and vice versa.
Okay.
But we can discuss it. Can I send you my email verse on this chat?
I have it.
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Be
But you can send it
transparent.
out in the chat.
Everything's out there.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, Steve has his hands up. Steve, go ahead and ask your question and then lower your hand, please.
All right, thank you. My question is, does the department have any initiatives related to restorative justice or restorative practices or police youth dialogues in the pipeline? Thank you.
Okay, you may have to clear up what you mean by restorative. Oh, police. Did I lose you?
No, he's still there.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
lost the whole screen, but I'm back. But definitely as far as youth dialogue, we were starting something with the schools. We met with the school superintendent when we wanted to get into all the schools. What we wanted to do is talk to those kids that either wanted to talk to us and or were doing indoor suspension and had no choice because they couldn't go anywhere. And so we wanted to open up the dialogue once again, having the police go in with the youth and kind of just talk to them, find out what's going on. What do they want to know? How can we help you? What do you want to do on a traffic stop? How do you think you should behave? We were just going to open up ourselves to whatever they wanted to conversate with, so that they knew that every week those same officers would come in and be open to conversation. And then voila, COVID hits, and obviously the school's not, in. And we tried to do the same thing with the Department of Juvenile Justice. And just as we were starting to go in, COVID hit, so they're not allowing us in there. What we want to do is we actually want to go in to the juvenile center where they're incarcerated. And we want to interact with them, not for an investigative purpose, not in a negative purpose. We just want to start forging that relationship so that when they come out, they already feel comfortable with us. So that way they feel they have someone to turn to. So we don't want that negative interaction. We want to create relationships so when they come back out and they're on their own, that they feel that they can call us if they need us. So we have been trying to definitely work with the youth. I mean, I hate to blame COVID because we were trying to work around it, but COVID really kind of stopped our progress. I was only here about 3 months before COVID hit, and it just stopped us in our tracks. But we had already met with, the Department of Juvenile Justice, probation and parole, with the schools, even the libraries. I was meeting with everybody I could meet with because I wanted to know, how can I work with you? What can we do for you? And how can we work better in the community? But unfortunately, most of those agencies now are working from home. We're one of those few agencies that come to work every day. And we're out there no matter what, rain, shine, or COVID, it's not going to stop us. But a lot of these other agencies aren't working as active as we are right now. So we're just waiting for things to go back to normal so we can kind of create more of those initiatives that we started.
Anyone else have any questions for Chief or any of the other majors that are on? Now's the time to ask your questions. I see quite a few comments. in the chat box, and I see Chief Ramos has been answering some of them that you put in during the. Hi, Patrick. You have a question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't have a question.
Okay. Okay, anyone at all? We've got one new message. Let's see who that is.
No, I have here's the question.
Go ahead.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I tell you what, go ahead with your question. Let me see if, what I have. Oh, I had one question before you do that, Don, if I can get mine in.
Go ahead.
I'm looking for it. I had it ready and moved my page. There, Major Matlin, you said that there were several traffic stops at over in the West South Harrison and Redan Road. Did you give her a number for that, or burglaries, traffic stops and burglaries? I think I missed that number. Could you repeat that for me, please?
You said 5.
Yeah, traffic stops in the area. Can y'all hear me, number one?
Yes.
Okay. Traffic stops, we had about 150 traffic stops within a 60-day period in the area of Redan and South Harrison and North Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking about burglaries?
Yes.
Thefts were 25 thefts within the last 60 days. And some of that overlaps with East, because when you put a polygon around that area, you get about a half-mile area.
Okay. I missed the officer, the major that spoke before you. He used the term net, and I believe it was COP unit. Could you explain for me, and for those that's on the line, what those acronyms mean, net and COP units?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Major Jordan. So net is
Thank you.
each one of our precincts have a net team. It's called a neighborhood enforcement team. And traditionally, these officers do not, as Chief Ramos said, most of our officers are going call to call to call. So it's very difficult for them to do some of the self-initiated stuff. So these officers will go out and address quality of life issues. Something as simple as, I have a vehicle in my neighborhood that's sitting on flat tires. They'll go out and address that. Or sometimes they may go out and address the issue, like I said, what we're dealing with. We got people selling drugs at the gas stations and so forth. So that's what we use our neighborhood enforcement team for. But also on the flip side of that, when school is in, they also do the other side of that, where they go to the schools and read the books to the kids and spend time with the kids and go to the career days as well. The community-oriented police is something that Chief Ramos talked about, and what she was saying is, this is a group that's going to each one of the precincts. I believe she said they're going to hit each one of the precincts once a week. Am I saying that right? Am I saying that right, Chief?
Yes.
So they hit each one of the precincts once a week, and they get the information from the majors who know the precincts very well. So let's say, for instance, in my precinct, you may have somebody saying, "Hey, I've seen people hanging out at this particular service station," and we've used a net team to do that. But what she's saying, instead of going out there doing the enforcement component of it, they actually go out there and have some dialogue and talk to the people and try to come up with different solutions, meet with the business people in the community, and just try to get some buy-in from other people other than just the police department. And we're talking about that shared responsibility that we all can participate in this, and then we can all find solutions for it. It's not all about locking people up. So these units will go out there and do a lot less, very little of locking people up. Their goal is to go out there and do some effective listening, bring back some solutions, and we all come together and come up with some solutions to solve whatever issues we got in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Community-oriented police. I'm sorry if I didn't say that.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And my last question goes back to Major Matlin. You said, Major Matlin, that there were some people working out of the back of the store when you were talking about Old Boston Market and Chevron. The back of the store would be the cigar store that's in the back of Chevron. Is that what you were referring to?
No, the back of the Old Boston Market, they were washing cars, that type of thing back there, like making some side money, side hustle. Without any permits, without the ability to be able to really do that.
Okay, and that was being managed by the the owner of Chevron?
The owner of Boston Market asked them to keep an eye on their business. And you know how that goes. You're taking care of somebody else's property. You don't have any interest in it. So now they know, hey, that's not going to go on over there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing that up for me. Okay, Don, I'm done. You can go ahead.
I know. probably had this question a million times. I guess I just want to hear it repeated for everyone on the phone. So, it's been pretty quiet, the gunshots. And I know you all probably get the phone calls via the 911 or the non-emergency line. And the only thing my understanding is that we can just report it and get the general area, and you all do you notate this information? Like, this general area, got 10 people called about gunshots. Do you do a patrol of the area? Do we have to ask, or how does that work? When we don't know specifically where it's coming from, but we hear them and they're close.
Man, we respond to all those calls. We are calling 911 to shots fired.
Yeah.
And we'll do a police report. That way we know where we need to put our people at. If we start seeing a certain time of the day that's going on, or what area it's coming from, we'll start posting people in that area to look for it. That helps us triangulate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Craig, there's a question about homelessness and the NET team handling it. Could you answer that question?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. There's a question about.
There's a question. Does the NET team in the Tucker precinct address homelessness and vagrants in the area? There is a problem at Stone Mountain, Lithonia Road and Rockbridge Road intersection.
Yes, we go out there along with our officers on the street when they see it. Homelessness, as we all know, is not a crime, but we do have a lot of people out there begging for money. A lot of times they open businesses, they're begging for food. We'll go talk to them. Usually the business owner will call us. That gives us the right to be there and talk to them. We'll give them either a criminal trespass warning, tell them they can't be there. Usually they'll leave, not a problem. If the store owner then wants to do a arrest, or somebody wants to warn them they refuse to leave, we can handle it that way. We try to talk to the people. We have a lot of people right now that's going to be going through evictions. As you know, they've been holding off on that because the marshal's office haven't been serving them. We're starting to see more people now homeless than we have before. So we're going to see that transpire. We got to deal with that.
I'm sorry, would everyone on except for Major Madeline, please mute your phones or your devices. We've got some background noise. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Chief, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you hear anything that I said?
Oh, you're finished? Were you done? Okay, I've got it. Yes, we can hear you. That I had to get rid of that background noise. Okay, I've got a question that was emailed to me. Actually, two questions. They want to know, the first one is, and Chief Ramos, you may be able to answer this one. There's a question about installing or putting a satellite precinct in this area. Is that a possibility? You're muted.
And what area are we discussing, ma'am?
Redan and South Harrison area.
You know, we would have to look into it and maybe think about it. Dividing our resources makes it difficult for accountability purposes. And remember, even if you have a mini satellite station, we don't want our officers in the station. We want you out in the street anyway.
Yes.
So I understand it would help to have them there, but what we need them is visible and patrolling. We don't really want them stationary.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. It was about implementing cameras in the area where, same area, it seems everybody's kind of picking on Redan and South Harrison, BP and Chevron right now. That seems to be the hot spot. But the question was, what about installing Crime Stop or surveillance cameras in those areas? Especially targeting those two service stations, as well as the loitering and the drug dealings that take place there.
Okay, I'm gonna touch on it and then I'm gonna let Craig Medlin talk about it because he has a lot more experience with flock. But those are those flock cameras, and unfortunately the county does not place those cameras. The county has placed several of them when it first started. Communities have actually been investing in the program themselves, and they can choose where they want the cameras placed. Commissioner Bradshaw is actually providing 13 of those to the North Central area. So sometimes the commissioners will sponsor them, but the county does not place those cameras out there. I think we have a few, but we don't have many. And Craig, if you can elaborate a little bit on the flock cameras and how, if any community was interested, what they would need to do.
Yes, ma'am. Like she said, Commissioner Bradshaw did a great thing for us, buying 13 of them. We're having spaced out around Tucker Precinct, some in Central. The cameras are not real cheap. They do incur a yearly fee. We encourage the large housing subdivisions that can afford them to get them. They're great tools for us. Just this week, we had a armored car robbery where they tried to take the ATM driver down, take the money from them. We were able to run that tag, find out what they were. We got both people in custody, solved within just about a day. So it was really, really good turnaround. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was getting like some spots there. The cameras, I'm trying to remember how much it costs now. I think it's around $2,300 per camera, something like that a year. But we can put you in touch if y'all are interested with the flock representative we have at the precinct. We don't sell them ourselves, but we have people they can call and talk to and get them set up.
Okay, thank you.
We do work, by the way, we do work with the Chevron. A couple of these stores have camera systems, and some of them allow us to use their camera system. We can see what's going on, so it helps us with prosecution later.
Great, thank you. Valerie, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Your question is next. Go ahead.
Okay, sure, Charlie. Thank you. And I actually was sharing from the chat line. Representative Viola Davis had a question. Her question was, what time must parents have their children home at night?
Good question.
To any of our officers? Can anyone take that? Did you guys hear me?
What's the curfew?
Did you hear my question, Dawn?
Chief,
I
You're-
did. Okay.
I heard you. Chief, you're muted.
Major Banks, are you taking that?
Yeah, I'll take it. Oh, did I mute that?
Oh, you're good.
Hear you.
Okay, I saw another mute. So yeah, so our youth, and mind you that we're talking about those that are actually in school and are of that age, they must be in before dark, and then they can come outside of the house when it's time for school. And this is during the school hours, so we're talking about between 5 and 6 a.m. when that's on their way to school. But when kids are out loitering, and we're talking about specifically looking at 10 p.m., they should be inside of the home. And I understand that the questioning regarding that, because we sometimes do see some youth that are out, and we come in contact with them when they're out committing crime. So when they're out and they're some of the ones that were perpetrating the crimes of entering auto, then why are they in the home? Well, then we look at that, and that's a totally different issue of parenting and so forth. But yes, it is a concern, and it is something that we're well aware of.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions?
I have a question that piggy back off of Major Banks. So, on Nextdoor, and then we have Neighbor Ring, there's a lot of the teenagers, or what looks to be teenagers, trying the car doors, etc. And, we have a lot of, complaints, of course, on Nextdoor, and they want fingerprinting done. Can you explain why it's not feasible to have fingerprinting for these types of activities?
Okay. Well, I know some are asked for fingerprinting, and we have the officers that go out, and if we do see where there are some visible prints, we will have a detective to come out and collect those prints. Now, sometimes what we run into is on some surfaces there are a number of prints, and I'll speak to vehicles. So the officer is there, and you say, well, they touched my car door. Well, okay, well, we're out there, and we see 10s and 20 to 30 handprints all over the car. And I know sometimes we don't get to opportunity to wash our cars and so forth as we would like. But that does pose a challenge for us quite often. And it is our desire to do all we can to solve cases. But in some instances, we cannot get those prints that will assist us and definitely help recover your property in a more timely manner.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions? Anyone else would like to ask a question?
I have a question again, Charlie.
Go ahead.
So I had this question, someone had shared with me. If social gatherings, and this is in the light of COVID restrictions, if those social gatherings in residential communities swell over 10 members with, parking on the street that impedes traffic, how is that handled in terms of policing? Do we call the police? Is that something that you would enforce or break up? How is that being handled?
I'll take that one. Yeah, we do encourage you. If you see there's a large gathering, we don't mind. Give us a call, and we're doing our best to, flatten the curve, so to speak, and we can have an officer to go out and actually educate those who may be gathering, large gatherings, and not wearing masks and all. We do that quite often. So we're all in this together, so we don't have any issue with those notifications being made.
I want to clarify as well that if you're at your home, in your backyard, on your front lawn, we're not going to tell you how many people you can have in your backyard, in your private home. We're not here to tell private citizens what to do. We're not going to violate anybody's privacy. Now, if you're blocking the street, that's a whole different story, whether it's COVID or not. Now you're obstructing. So, there are different things that we can and can't do, but we'll take it on a case-by-case basis, but we will definitely show up. And that's going to tie in with Lawanda's question about how quickly we should expect a response to call for a crime in progress or drug sales. It's all going to be different depending on what is holding. Calls for service are received like a queue in the hospital. You can be next, and if somebody is stabbed or shot, you're going to go to the bottom of the pile. So we don't determine when we go to the call. We get sent to the call as the call is dispatched, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't been holding for a while before we get there. Sometimes we don't know how long the call has been holding until we get it. So we don't know that you may be waiting for an officer until we're actually dispatched. So once again, you can be next, and depending on what's going on, you can drop down 2 or 3 calls down. And by the time we get there, you could drop down 3 and 4 more, depending on how they categorize your call request.
Thank you, Chief Ramos. Representative Davis, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
My question is, do we still have the mental health units operating within the police department? And if we do, when are they, what are the hours? Are they available?
They're actually available from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. We actually have 1 unit. I am happy to say that we are currently have requested, and they're training 2 additional nurses. So we will be bumping that up to 3 as soon as the nurses are trained. But as of right now, we have 1 7 days a week from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m.
And would you please, Chief, explain what the responsibilities or the role of the mental health units are for those that are on the line?
It is actually a certified nurse that is qualified to deal with mental health crisis, and one of our officers rides along with the officer, and they will respond to any call requiring their services. And if there isn't one, then they do follow-ups on previous calls or different calls that they've had in the past where they're following up on their clients. So, but unfortunately, it's 1 for the entire county. And if anyone has anything else to add on that, feel free.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else have questions? We're getting close to the end. Any other questions on the feed line, on the chat line, Terry? Don, do you have any other questions?
Oh, my last question is, due to COVID, we don't have the coffee with the cops, the roll calls. How often do you think that you would be able to do like a community forum similar to this? Just, similar to what you did back in June. And I think you said at the end in December, you plan on maybe having another one to kind of give a recap of the year.
I just had one. So we just had one, so you're talking about June, we just had one last Sunday.
Yeah, I attended.
And then we're having another one in January.
Okay.
So we try to have those maybe every couple months because of COVID, because we want to stay engaged. However, with the scheduling and the technology and getting everybody on board, it's not that easy, but we will definitely be having one early January, like I said, to give you a recap of 2020. We'll actually be opening up our social media for questions that we want to incorporate into our presentations. So that way we'll have a Q&A at the end, but if you give us your questions, meanwhile, we can try to incorporate it into our presentation as we go along.
Okay.
It's going to be very informative because it's going to be all about information, all about all we've done this year, good and the bad, and what we hope to do better next year.
Okay.
So that is a no, you should not miss that one, because we're really putting ourselves out there because we want the community to know that we're not hiding, we're not running.
Yeah.
We're not perfect, but we are definitely trying to do better. And we definitely want to hear from you so that we can continue to improve every day.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, last call, we've got 10 minutes and we're winding down. Are there any other questions to be asked before we go into the closing? I'm scanning. Okay, no other hands. Representative Davis, you have a question or did you need to lower your hand? Okay, I guess not.
I'm sorry, I need to lower my hand.
That's okay. That's all right. We're so glad you joined us tonight. Okay, so we want to, let's see, we just got something popped in. There's a question about the smoke shop. Valerie, this is your question. Go ahead, unmute yourself and ask it before we line off about the smoke shop.
Right. Thank you, Charlie. I know one of the officers tonight mentioned something about the business behind the Chevron at Redan. And I was just curious about the smoke shop there too. There used to be one at North Harrison and Memorial Drive. And now it seems like there's one, I believe, somewhere in that Redan, South Harrison area. I mean, what exactly are those? And, you know, they tend to have a lot of loitering, and it just seems to be a magnet for negativity. And what can be done about that, like legally as a community?
Man, the smoke shop is
For
behind
us to remove them or clean them up. Is it behind the Chevron? I'm speaking from memory, forgive me, but I'm thinking that that's where it is now. It moved from,
Yes,
or maybe it's on the Kroger
Yeah.
side.
No, it's behind the Chevron, Valerie.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So was that your question, Valerie? Did you get your answer? Okay.
Yes, just, you know, what can we do to, you know, engage that, to clean it up? Because it is a magnet for negativity. There are a lot of different things that, you know, should not go on that are going on there in the vicinity. And it attracts, you know, a lot of criminal-like behavior at all times of the day.
Am I getting out? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the owner of the Chevron also owns that cigar shop. So I've talked to him on several occasions. He's actually pretty good to talk to. He is running a business there. When our officers are out there working in the area, of course, we're addressing any crime we see. But people do hang out there, and if they're not doing anything illegal, you know, if they're loitering, he wants them to leave, we'll make them leave. But if they're doing business purposes, nothing we can do with that. We have had some that was out there drinking open containers. We've dealt with that situation, run citations, and move them along. But if y'all start seeing things, let us know. We'll respond out there. It's not a problem. That's what we're paid to do. And we'll stay on it.
Okay. All right. Well, we are close to our ending time. I just want to thank the DeKalb County Police Department for their willingness and their interest in helping us to clean up DeKalb County. As you may or may not know, For DeKalb Citizens United is a group of residents that have determined that we want to assist in making a difference in the community. We've got some people online that have also started volunteering to clean up certain areas. They had a work group last weekend over at Boston Market cleaning, and they'll be back out there again this weekend to clean. I think they went 2 miles on either side of Redan Road, cleaning up litter and so forth. I want to give special thanks to Chief Ramos, Major Metland, Major Banks, and Major Jordan. We appreciate you guys. We know what you're doing is not easy, and we also know that we can be a royal pain sometimes, so bear with us, but we appreciate you, and we're so glad that we've got some recruits that are getting ready to come out to help you guys out. We do look forward to you all being in the community because we want to get to know you. I think when we interact with one another, it's going to change quite a bit of what we think. We'll get some of the negative thoughts out and get more positive thoughts in. And we'll be able to have those one-on-one conversations with you guys, which will put us a lot more at ease. Because truthfully, a lot of us are a little bit anxious when you guys show up. So we're glad you're going to be in the community. And too bad we were able to get some events done this summer as we plan to get you out, to invite you guys out. But we do look forward to perhaps getting you to come out into our communities to different events in the following spring, upcoming spring. Representative Davis, once again, I appreciate you. We thank you so much for joining us, and please stay in touch with us. You guys, please be sure and put your information out because we're constantly scanning the county website as well as your personal, not your personal, but the county Facebook pages as well. And Representative Davis, if you could type your information in the chat box so that we can start scanning and see what you have going on, we would appreciate it. Once again, from the members of For DeKalb County, For DeKalb Citizens United, we all thank you once again, and we appreciate you so much. Chief Ramos, we will be calling on you guys once again sometime in the near future. Thanks again. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I'm gonna end the meeting.